So hello everyone, it's good to have you here with us as we speak to a young Chevening Scholarship recipient, Mr. Olvine Holas from Grenada. Today, we're going to explore some more about the acquisition of this scholarship and hopefully give you some pointers to achieving this on your own. So Mr. Holas, we welcome you and we are happy to have you here with us at this point in time. So Mr. Holas, tell me more about yourself.
Thank you very much for having me, Anderson. Well, like you rightfully said, my name is Olvine Holas, and I come from a rural community in Grenada called Mornlong in the parish of St. Andrew. That community is mainly heavily dependent on farming. And I also, in my earlier years, I went to the St. Matthew's RC School, Mornlong Christian Academy, and the Grenville Secondary School. Now, those schools are not what you would hear of as the popular or top schools in Grenada, right? But I attended those schools and they have taught me a lot and have built my foundation in my academic journey. And so part of my story that I will share, I will say, no matter where you've come from or where you are, it should not be a deterrent in getting to where you want to be, as long as you have the drive and the determination to get there. So in addition to that, I would have went on from secondary school to T.M. Arisho Community College, where I did my associate degree in general studies, after which I worked at a hotel for 1 year, which was then called La Sauce Grenada, which is now Sandoz La Sauce Grenada, after which I would have resigned twice to go to further my studies at the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill, where I pursued a bachelor's degree in management special, followed by a master's degree in international management. Now, while at UE, I wasn't just focused on building my academic career, but I was also trying to be a holistic or well-rounded individual. So I participated in extracurricular activities. I was the returning officer on the Guild of Students for 2 years, where I would have led the charge for revolutionizing voting and the way elections are conducted at Cave Hill. So I would have been the person who spearheaded the initiative to implement electronic voting at Cave Hill, which was the first for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. And so what would have taken us hours to count votes after an election was eventually streamlined and was able to be done in less than 5 minutes after the polls have been closed, saving us thousands of dollars. After that, I would have went on to become the guild president of the Guild of Students in 2016.
What is it? That's excellent, man. I mean, I'm listening to you as a returning officer, and I'm thinking about all Caribbean families who are actually, I mean, many of the countries are currently doing their own, election processes. I mean, Trinidad and Tobago just concluded theirs.
Yes.
Guyana finally after many months. All right, and Jamaica, and, yes, and Jamaica, etc. So it's good to have somebody who actually has taken that opportunity to change the format of the. Are you there? All right. To change the format of the electoral process, and I would hope one day, I mean, your process or your strategy may actually be useful later on. I mean, don't let it die just like that. Hopefully, through CARICOM or whatever. Let's see how it could work. You could never tell. You could never tell. All right.
I hope to see our legislation and so on cater for those type of innovation when it comes to conducting elections and so on within our states and so on.
Well,
in fact, in Barbados, a lot of the statutory bodies and so on are now using that format of voting, governed by the Electoral Office of Barbados, to have internal elections. So it is being put to use, and I'm hoping to see it grow across the region.
Well, let's just hope that the political will happens. Okay, let's see what happens. But
so Chevening requires you to have at least 2 years working experience they expect you to be somebody who is a leader or an aspiring leader, somebody who is involved in the community at whatever level, you know, as long as you're contributing to society and its development, as long as you're giving back, you're being that outstanding global citizen. And so and that is just some of it, in addition to having the academic criteria of Shivlin. So now it's a very rigorous application process. And I can understand the reason for that rigor, because this year I think we had almost 60,000 applicants globally. And of those 60,000 applicants, if my memory serves me right, only 1,200 of those almost 60,000 made it to become actual Shivlin scholars. The final essay that I can remember offhand is how are you going to use a Shivlin scholarship? How are you going to use a UK degree to come back to the Caribbean to contribute to the development and building of the Caribbean?
Well, you actually answered my question. I was about to ask you, because I was going to ask you, how do you think this Shivlin scholarship is going to actually help improve your country as well as the Caribbean region? So feel free, go ahead.
Lovely question, and I'm happy to answer. All right, so my master's degree, or the one I'll be pursuing in the UK at the University of Edinburgh, is a master's in international business and emerging markets. Now, the Caribbean, as we know it, are made up of small island developing states. That's how the international community refers to us. And in these small island developing states, we are mainly considered to have emerging markets or emerging economies, which means we're not considered to be in the league of the first world countries when it comes to economy and competition in a global scale. So the degree I'm pursuing is one that will help me to better understand emerging markets, how emerging markets work, what doesn't work, how can emerging markets reach a place in the global market whereby which we can compete on an equal playing field as the more developed countries. How as Richard Bernal would put it, the Caribbean is made up of nano firms, and these nano firms Richard Bernal speaks of is those small businesses within the Caribbean. So how now are we going to amalgamate these nano firms or these small businesses and transform them into globally competitive entities? And all of those things are things I hope to learn and better understand, so that when I return to the Caribbean, I can now use my knowledge to transfer it into the private sector, the public sector entities, and even to my people, because not everybody will have the opportunity to go to a university, right? Not everybody will be a Shivlin scholar. Not everybody will be able, but it doesn't mean that because you don't have a degree, you shouldn't be equipped with the knowledge to be able to work in these respective fields. So the ones of us who are fortunate enough to get to go and pursue higher education, we should always be willing to come back, not just to earn the big bucks, right? But also to come back to impart the knowledge and equip other persons and empower them to be able to participate in the economic chain that exists within our society.
I agree to 100%. And what I'm liking about you, Mr. Holas, I like your energy and your passion. I'm actually seeing it in your eyes that you're really into this. And I mean, it's so good to see a young person really passionate about what they're doing.
I feel like I've said this on every interview I've had for the past couple of weeks, but you don't need to come from a rich family or a rich community to be successful in life. You don't need to always have the answers. You don't need to always have everything at your fingertips, right? You as you go through life, you really understand that sometimes a lot of the things you fuss over, a lot of the things you cry over, are simply beyond your control. And it is pointless fussing and crying over. So, like I tell my students, I always say to my students, don't magnify the problems, right? Recognize the problem and come up with a viable solution. And when you have a set of solutions before you, then now you have an opportunity to say, okay, if I go with option A, this might be my outcomes. If I go with option B, and it puts you in a better position now to determine the best way forward. And so in terms of education, or whatever skill or so that any young person is pursuing, because education is not just going to university and getting a degree. That would be ideal, but come on, everybody would not pursue a university degree. But whatever field you're in, I will employ and encourage individuals to be the best at that field, be the best in that field, and ensure that you have the necessary qualifications and paper that recognizes your ability to perform those duties. Do not focus on the things that you don't have, right? Rather, you should focus on where you really want to be in life, and create a path as to how you're going to get there, right? So that is my encouragement and my word of advice to the young people out there. Now, don't depend on your government for everything, because if you do that, you will be living a life of failure, a life of waiting, a life of regret.
Okay, so Mr. Holas, I want to say thank you very much for your positive words. And I mean, I know the conversation could go on and on and on, but I know we basically are limited time we do have. But I really want to say thank you very much. And on behalf of the CVE, it is really a pleasure doing this interview with you. And I really I love your passion. All I will just simply say is to keep that passion going, keep that drive going. And it's really a pleasure to interact with you. I mean, in this platform, hopefully one day we might be face to face, and continue to make Grenada proud and make the Caribbean proud as well. So thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you very much for having me, Anderson, and you and the rest of the CVE team, keep up the great work.